This is Brandon Lee with BetFirms.com here with your 2012 Temple football predictions. Temple finished up the 2011 season with an impressive 37-15 win over Wyoming in the New Mexico Bowl, improving their overall record to 9-4. It was the Owls' second trip to a bowl game in the last 3 years and their third straight season with at least 8 wins. With the success that Temple has had of late, a lot of people outside of the program forget how this team went 18 straight years without a winning season prior to going 9-4 in 2009. With West Virginia leaving the Big East to join the Big 12, it opened the door for Temple to return to the conference. There is a lot of pressure on second-year head coach Steve Addazio to get the Owls to compete in a conference that gave them the boot. Unfortunately, Temple just so happens to join the Big East in the midst of a major rebuilding season. The Owls have just 8 starters back. The Owls didn't exactly pose much of a threat throwing the football in 2012. In fact, they rarely threw the ball at all. Chester Stewart was the leading passer with just 743 yards on 83 attempts. While Stewart departs, he had already lost his job to Chris Coyier by the end of last season. Coyier played in just 8 games, but started the final 4. He ended up throwing for 463 yards with 6 touchdowns and no interceptions, and was third on the team with 562 yards and 3 touchdowns on the ground. There's going to be a lot of pressure on Coyier to continue to grow and play even better in his junior season, as the Owls have to replace one of the top running backs in all of college football in Bernard Pierce. In what ended up being his final season, Pierce rushed for 1,481 yards with a school record 27 rushing touchdowns. Despite missing a number of starts and skipping out on his senior season, Pierce finished second on the Temple all-time rushing list with 5,967 yards. While the Owls returned Matt the Bug Brown, who earned third-team All-MAC honors with 916 yards and 6 touchdowns, he doesn't have the size to be an every-down back. Even though Temple features a run-first offense, you still have to have some talent at the wide receiver position to keep teams honest. That is a bit of a concern for the Owls heading into 2012, as they have to replace their top 3 receiving options from last year. The biggest threat they have coming back is Dion Miller, who had just 18 catches for 253 yards and 3 touchdowns. If losing their top running back and their top 3 receivers wasn't enough for the Owls to overcome, Temple has some serious holes to fill on the offensive line. The only starter back up front is senior right tackle Martin Wallace. All 4 of the starters who left had started at least 2 years, leaving very little experience coming back. The Owls were able to beat teams with their running game and a top-notch defense in the MAC. Temple allowed just 18.9 points per game behind a very balanced unit that allowed just 124 yards per game on the ground and 188 yards through the air. However, a lot of that was a result of some pretty bad teams in the MAC. There is no way Temple will even come close to matching those numbers now that they are in the Big East. Temple has done a fantastic job of developing NFL-ready defensive linemen. Last year they had to replace a first-round draft pick and defensive tackle Muhammad Wilkerson, yet still were able to show improvement against the run. This year they lose 3-time first-team All-MAC defensive end Adrian Robinson and third-team All-MAC defensive end Morkeith Brown. They do, however, bring back both starting defensive tackles, including 300-pound nose tackle Levi Brown. Where the defense really looks like they could be in trouble is at linebacker. The Owls have to replace first-team All-MAC outside linebacker Tahir Whitehead and middle linebacker Steven Johnson. The only starter back is junior outside linebacker Blaise Caponegro. The secondary loses starting corner Kier Griffin and free safety Kevin Crobeth, but have 6 of their top 8 back from last season. As long as the defensive line continues to play at a high level, the Owls should be able to put up similar numbers against the pass this season. Now, my Big East prediction. I have Temple picked to finish last in the conference. I think over time the Owls will be able to compete in the Big East, but this team has little to no chance of being a threat in 2012. I don't even know that they could have competed at a high level in the MAC with just 8 starters back. I think the defense will be able to hold its own against some of the teams in the conference, but I have a hard time seeing the offense being able to do much of anything.